The NLRB, so I filed an NLRB charge, National Labor Relations Board. There were several claims based on the contract, based on my working experience. I think you followed it, so you know. But my hope that the National Labor Relations Board was going to charge Kinetic content and Delirium content, which is, again, the production companies, and say that Love is Blind cast members, due to the contract, due to the amount of work, the labor elements of it, the working conditions, the time we spent working, the lack of autonomy, the long hold they have over us, all of these things go into the charge. And then in December of last year, the NLRB made the claim that we were misclassified as contractors by law, and that by law we should be considered employees. This case is my way of building lasting change. And also, for those of you who wonder, my closure to all of the things that I've been through the last few years, and some of the experiences that the people I care about from this experience have gone through as well. So if you could explain the labor law element in layman's terms and the NLRB charge and what this could mean for Love is Blind and all of reality TV moving forward, should a court of law rule that this is factual and that we should be designated as employees?
Yeah, so the NLRB is stating that they believe there's been a misclassification. In other words, even though the contract will tell the cast members that they're not employees, the way that the show runs looks like employment, and therefore the rules of labor, the labor laws and the rules of employment must apply to these cast members. It's really important because it gives a lot of credence and validity to these lawsuits and to the claims that you made. And this NLRB action is not for a payment. You're not going to get a payout, but what you are going to get is change, which is probably the most important thing that you've been looking for. Like, as far as I've gotten to know you, that's been the most important thing for you, has been to see these reality stars' rights be protected and just be treated properly as employees. And I think that the NLRB action has a lot of potential. If the labor board is looking at this contract and looking at the show and saying, these are misclassified employees, that really tells you something. You can't, these are the experts in labor law, and they're saying that. So it gives a lot of salience to these claims. I think there's a good chance that change will be made because there's pressure coming from all sides. We see, all these lawsuits have been built up, and I don't think the show is going anywhere. Like you said, it's super popular, but I think that they're going to have to make some changes if they want to continue the show by treating the cast members as employees. And I think they have the means to do so. I don't think it's a matter of being unable to do so. I think they were trying to get away with something, and everybody's pushing back, which is when you see change happen.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And you're right. Like, I want change. I've never been in, I mean, I like money. Everybody likes money. I've never been motivated by money. I just want to live my life and take a vacation every now and then and go out for a steak. So to me,
Amen.
it's like, yeah, it's like I look at this and I'm like, what can cause change? And then it clicked to me when I had the W-2, actually, that I was like, why would they give me a W-2 and say I'm a contractor? And I know a little bit, like, I grew up working class. I know a little bit about labor. And so that was kind of when the wheels started turning to do this. And I think now, as I've shared earlier, like I've actually spoken with people at the NLRB extensively about this experience. It is going to go to, is this called, it's not trial, right? You're right. You're right. And so what I think is so interesting right now is been a groundswell, right? And like you said, it's the movement when change happens. For me, like, we're in the midst right now where precedence is being set. The lawsuits are setting a legal precedence. And to me, it's like you're fighting 5 lawsuits, over the course of 2.5 years. That's a drain. But the business model of reality TV for the last however many years, in its current form, it's been at least 15, 16, 17 years. And you look at it and the whole business model is built on cheap labor, cheap production, not paying union SAG AFTRA actors and actresses and performers. In some cases, I've even heard some of these shows try to use non-union crews when they're in in specific cities where it seems more applicable. So it's all about driving a whole bunch of revenue and keeping costs low. And if all of a sudden you have to pay these people that are coming on these shows, and then you have to pay them fair labor wages, or if they unionize, which the contract forbids you to do, which I want to touch that on 1 second on that too. It's really at the point where I feel like they would take this all the way to the Supreme Court, because you're disrupting not just your business model, but entire industry's business model. And I think like all this spotlight on Love is Blind and even like Real Housewives and stuff like that, it is shaking the foundation of this business model. And I think that there's going to be a huge push as we get closer and closer and closer to this designation possibly becoming reality,
Yeah.
to
I was just
suppress
thinking
that.
about Vanderpump Rules because when they began on the show, they were like broke, really young people who weren't making very much money, but they also weren't demanding a lot. But then as the show grew, they became huge celebrities. They started demanding more money, and the show had to pony up because the show was reliant on these cast members who were making so much money. But also as the cast members became fairly wealthy, there was a lot less they would take from the show, and they started asserting, demands of their own, whether in terms of who they're filming with and when they're filming. So it's like a reciprocal situation. So maybe when Netflix first produced Love is Blind season one, they didn't know if this show was going to be anything. Like, who knows if anyone's
And their
interested?
working conditions were way worse than ours.
Oh, I can
They
imagine.
were sleeping in trailers at the beginning, like outside the studio in
Oh
a trailer with
God. See,
cockroaches.
there's
But
so much none of us even know about what goes on behind the scenes still. But now they know full well that this show is a huge moneymaker. So it's in their best interest to treat their employees, the cast members, accordingly. Otherwise,
I
they're going to continue to be hit by these lawsuits because even just this settlement by Hartwell, the 1.4 million, that has communicated that they're willing to pay and that there are good salient claims to make against them. So it's not going to stop coming unless things change.
Thank you for listening to this clip from the full episode of Eyes Wide Open. Please like and subscribe for daily clips and new episodes that drop every Tuesday. I appreciate you.